silver moon rose high above the forest, cold and watchful, casting its authority over the land that belonged to Alpha Dominic Kane. The night was thick with power, with the unspoken rhythm of the pack gathered beneath ancient trees that had seen loyalty sworn and blood spilled. Everything followed order here. Everything obeyed him, until Vanessa Sterling crossed the boundary. She emerged from the shadows as if the darkness itself had released her, calm and deliberate, her presence cutting through the night with unsettling precision. Years had passed since her name was last whispered in this territory, but time had not softened her purpose. Her eyes carried no hesitation, only memory sharpened into resolve. This was not a return fueled by longing. It was a reckoning. The pack felt it before they understood it. Conversations faltered. The instincts stirred. Dominic sensed the shift the moment she stepped into the clearing, the air tightening around him as though the moon itself had drawn closer. She did not bow. She did not pause. Vanessa moved straight toward him, uninvited and undeniable, her confidence a challenge no one dared interrupt. She had not come to plead or explain. She had come to claim. In a single deliberate motion, she closed the space between them and took what she wanted, turning the Alpha's world inside out beneath the watching moon. The act was bold, intimate, and unmistakably public. Shock rippled through the pack like a sudden wind through leaves. This was not affection. This was defiance wrapped in desire, control masked as passion. From the edge of the clearing, another presence stiffened. Dominic's past stood frozen in disbelief, and watching the future unravel in front of her eyes. What she saw was not weakness. It was something far more dangerous, a bond being challenged, a hierarchy cracking under the weight of unfinished history. The moonlight intensified, silver spilling over skin and stone as the moment stretched, heavy with consequences yet to come. Vanessa remained close, unyielding, her intent clear even without words. Whatever had been broken years ago was no longer buried. It had returned, sharp and alive. And as the night held its breath, one truth became unavoidable. This was only the beginning. The weight of that truth settled heavily as the moment broke, yet its echo refused to fade. The closeness lingered like heat beneath the skin, leaving Dominic rigid and unsteady in a way the pack had never witnessed. What had been taken from him beneath the moon could not be undone by distance alone. Power recoiled inside him, clashing with instinct, with memory, with a pull he had spent years burying. He tore himself away from the center of the clearing, anger rolling off him in sharp, controlled waves. The pack felt it immediately. Wolves shifted uneasily. Eyes followed his retreat. Order had been disrupted, and no command could smooth over what had already fractured. The moon watched in silence as the Alpha moved deeper into the forest, seeking distance that offered no relief. Vanessa did not retreat. She followed without hesitation, her presence steady behind him, unafraid of the tension thickening the air. The forest closed around them, shadows stretching long beneath silver light. Every step drawing them farther from witnesses but closer to the truth neither could outrun. This was not pursuit born of desperation, it was certainty. She had crossed too many lines to turn back now. The pull between them sharpened with every breath. Anger surged, tangled with something darker, something far more dangerous than resentment. What had ignited beneath the moon now pressed insistently against Dominic's control, awakening instincts older than his title, older than the pack itself. The bond did not ask permission. It demanded recognition. The forest responded. Leaves trembled. The air thickened with power as the moon climbed higher, its light piercing through the canopy like a blade. Dominic felt the change begin beneath his skin, subtle at first, then undeniable. Strength surged. Senses sharpened. More control slipped. Not completely, but enough to reveal what he had hidden even from himself. Vanessa stood her ground as the truth surfaced, unmasked and unavoidable. What she had triggered was no fleeting rebellion. It was ancient, binding, alive. Moonlight burned brighter as Dominic's form shifted just enough to betray the beast within, eyes igniting with a glow that held both fury and recognition. The secret he had guarded for years rose to the surface at last, no longer contained by silence. And beneath the unblinking moon, it became clear. Vanessa Sterling had awakened something that could never be put back to sleep. Dominic's confession hangs in the cold air, unfinished. The moment fractures before it can settle. cut short by a presence that refuses to remain in the past. From the edge of the moonlit forest, she steps forward, sharp, deliberate, unmistakably territorial. The woman who once stood where Vanessa now stands. The one history did not erase. Her arrival shifts the balance instantly. The forest tightens, the tension turning brittle. Old bonds stir, not with warmth, but with resentment sharpened by time. She carries herself like someone who believes the ground still belongs to her, like someone who has rehearsed this moment in silence for years. What follows is not a plea, it is an unveiling. Fragments of the past are dragged into the open, selective, jagged, deliberately incomplete. Pieces of Dominic's history are exposed in ways meant to wound rather than explain. What was once buried is reshaped into something darker, something designed to poison trust before it can take root. The truth bends under the weight of intention. When in doubt slips into the space between heartbeats. For a brief moment, uncertainty flickers. But Vanessa does not retreat. She does not step aside or loosen her claim. Instead, she holds her ground, closer than before, her resolve hardening as the tension rises. Whatever fear tries to surface is burned away by something stronger, defiance sharpened into certainty. If this is a war of presence, she refuses to disappear. The moon bears witness as lines are redrawn. The past presses forward, demanding relevance, demanding control. But the future does not yield easily. The warning comes not as mercy, but as threat, cold, deliberate, and final. A promise of conflict etched into the night itself. What lies ahead is not simple rivalry, nor wounded pride. It is something far more dangerous. As the forest falls silent once more, and a one truth settles heavily beneath the moonlight. Vanessa Sterling has stepped into a war she was never meant to survive. The warning echoes as silence swallows the forest. It lingers long after footsteps fade, sinking into bark and earth, threading itself through the veins of the pack. Nothing is spoken, yet everything has changed. The moonlight no longer feels neutral. It feels divided, casting shadows that stretch in opposite directions. Vanessa begins to feel it almost immediately. The weight of attention, the shift in loyalty. Some eyes follow her with fascination, drawn to the audacity she carries like a flame. Others harden with quiet judgment, anchored to a past they refuse to release. The pack is no longer whole. It is watching itself fracture, one allegiance at a time. Dominic stands at the center of it. He caught between instinct and resistance. The bond continues to tighten, threading itself deeper with every passing moment, no longer content to remain dormant. He fights it with discipline, sharpened over years, but the pull does not weaken. It grows teeth. It drags memory and desire into the same breath, blurring the lines between control and surrender. Vanessa feels it too. What began as defiance evolves into something heavier, something more intimate and more dangerous. Their proximity becomes unavoidable, charged with tension that neither names but both acknowledge. Longing coils tightly around resentment, each feeding the other. The closer they stand, the harder it becomes to remember where revenge ends and truth begins. The forest bears witness to moments that are never meant to be witnessed. Glances that linger too long, silences that say too much. The bond does not soften them, it sharpens them, exposing fractures they both tried to seal shut. And then the truth surfaces, not through confrontation, but through discovery. A fragment of Dominic's past emerges, carefully hidden, deliberately buried, revealing a choice he was forced to make long before Vanessa returned. A sacrifice disguised as betrayal, a decision shaped by loyalty, not cruelty. The pieces realign with sudden clarity, stripping away the version of events she had built her obsession upon. The realization lands hard. Vanessa was never merely a pawn in his story. She was part of a larger design, one shaped by survival, not indifference. The anger she carried begins to crack, not disappearing, but transforming into something far more dangerous than revenge. As the moonlight shifts once more, not one certainty takes hold. Obsession does not fade when it learns the truth. It sharpens. Vanessa stares at the truth she was never meant to uncover. It presses against her chest like iron, heavy with revelation and unspoken years. Every lie she had rehearsed to fuel her revenge feels fragile now, splintering in the presence of reality. The world she thought she controlled wavers, And in that wavering, something raw and undeniable begins to emerge, feelings she can no longer deny, no longer mask with calculated fury. The night itself seems to bend backward, pulling memory to the surface. Shadows flicker, carrying fragments of choices made long before she arrived. Dominic, once untouchable, had been forced to sacrifice more than she had ever imagined. His decisions were not cruelty, but survival, an impossible path that demanded impossible choices. Betrayal had been the language of necessity, and in its wake, both of them had been fractured, left to wander in their separate darknesses until now. Yet here they stand, the past bleeding into the present, their bonds sharpened by truth, not softened by it. Vanessa realizes that the fire that drove her, that led her to him with vengeance on her lips, has transformed. It is no longer simply revenge. It is desire, recognition, and something far more consuming than either of them intended. The line between what was supposed to hurt and what now captivates has disappeared. Dominic feels it too. The tension in the air, thick and raw, breaks away from control and defiance. The pack watches, with sensing a shift in dominance and loyalty that cannot be explained with words. When he chooses to step forward, choosing her openly despite the murmurs and the sideways glances, he challenges every expectation the pack has nurtured for years. The rebellion is quiet but complete, a declaration that no past, no law of the pack can redefine the connection that binds them. And then it comes, sudden as lightning and brutal as fate, an ambush beneath a blood-tinted moon. The forest trembles with predatory movements, shadows of enemies drawn by old grudges and unfinished business. The moon itself seems to flare red, reflecting the danger encroaching, illuminating the threat with a harsh, unforgiving light. The air is electric, the tension unbearable, and Vanessa senses the precarious edge upon which their bond now balances. In that crimson glow, one truth becomes unavoidable. The night is no longer about the past, or revenge, or revelation. It is about survival together, under a moon that watches as destiny claws its way forward. Chaos erupts as claws flash and loyalties break, tearing through the night like wildfire. The forest no longer feels like a sanctuary. It has become a battlefield, alive with the echoes of rage and betrayal. Every shadow conceals a threat. Every rustle of leaves carries intent. The pack fractures around them, some driven by allegiance to Dominic, others swayed by fear or old loyalties. The air is thick with the scent of power, blood, and desperation. And in the center of it all, Vanessa stands unflinching. She fights, not with brute force, not with claws or teeth, but with will. Every instinct honed over years of planning, and every ounce of cunning and daring she possesses, becomes a weapon. Each move she makes pushes the chaos outward, carving space in the storm for herself and for Dominic. She does not falter, even as the danger presses closer, even as the forest seems intent on swallowing them whole. Dominic is there, his presence a storm beside her, and yet he falters. A wound blooms across him, drawn in defense of her alone. In that moment, there is no Alpha, no pretense, no distance between them. There is only truth. The pain he endures is proof of his choice, proof of the depth of a heart that has always belonged to her, even when he fought it, even when he resisted it. The blood in the struggle cannot erase the declaration his actions make. He chooses her, even amid fire and chaos. But the X is relentless. She refuses to fade into history quietly, stepping into the open with one final, sharp gambit. Her alliance, dark and unyielding, surfaces in full, a revelation that twists the battlefield further, threatening not only their bodies, but the fragile balance of loyalty that has formed in the wake of Vanessa's return. Her intent is clear. If she cannot have him, no one will. The air tightens around the three of them, thick with tension, temptation, and the unspoken threat that love in this world is as dangerous as the claws that slash through it. In the aftermath of a particularly brutal clash, as the moon dips behind clouds, the forest quiets but does not rest. Vanessa stands over Dominic, her chest rising and falling with exertion, her heart caught between triumph and terror. The bond between them is undeniable, the truth of their connection blazing hotter than ever, but the cost of embracing it fully is no longer abstract. To love him is to risk everything she has fought for, everything she is, everything she might ever be. And under the shadowed moonlight, one realization settles like ice and fire combined. Love is a dangerous game, and she has already placed every piece on the board. Dominic lies still, the moon fading behind clouds, leaving the forest in a tense, silver-gray twilight. The chaos that had consumed the night seemed suspended, lingering in the chill air like smoke. Every leaf, every shadow, holds the memory of struggle, of claws flashing and loyalties tested. Yet amid it all, Vanessa stands with clarity, the weight of every choice she has made pressing down and lifting her at the same time. She moves not with vengeance, not with the need to prove herself, but with the certainty of destiny. Every step toward Dominic is deliberate, every breath measured with intent. The ex, once a looming shadow over the bond they shared, slips into obscurity, her dark alliance unraveling like smoke and wind. The pack, torn and tested through fire and blood, bends in recognition. Authority shifts quietly, irrevocably, and the past, the betrayals, the manipulations, the whispered fears, buries itself beneath the new order Vanessa has forged. Her hand reaches for Dominic, not to command, not to force, but to seal what has been fought for in silence and in fire. Her sacrifice is subtle but complete. She relinquishes every claim to revenge, every lingering grudge, allowing love to dictate the terms. In that surrender, the bond between them solidifies, unshakable and raw, and tempered by desire and danger alike. The forest, sensing the shift, exhales. Moonlight filters gently through the clouds, softer now, reflecting the calm after storm. Together they rise, still fierce, still dangerous, still burning with a passion that can neither be tamed nor ignored. The pack bows not just to Dominic's strength, but to the power of a love that chose courage over hatred, devotion over vengeance. The ex becomes legend, a shadow of what once threatened them, fading as whispers of the night carry her name into obscurity. Beneath the calmer moon, Vanessa and Dominic stand united, knowing something the world will never forget. Love, when seized fully, is the deadliest weapon of all. Their story is far from over. The moon still watches, the forest still breathes. And you, dare to follow the next chapter where passion, power, and danger collide like never before?